Tell me that he wants us to introduce.
Okay, so it's recording now. Go ahead, Dr. Bright.
Well,
This is the podcast.
well, good morning. Hello, how is everyone doing? My name is Dr. Mildred Ball Bright, and I'm so blessed to be here with two of my sisters. And one is Pauline Tassian and Myrtle Ball Garrison. They will introduce themselves, and then we will talk about our journey to our homeland, our journey to the ancestral lands of Tobe Ball, which is our grandfather. And now Pauline will tell you about our trip and the planning that was necessary for us to actually set foot on our land. Pauline, take it away.
Good morning. I'm Pauline Tassian. I am very delighted to be here to explain our planning and our trip to Tunica, our father's homeland, and our homeland. The trip was planned very early on, and our original plan was to be able to go on to our property and make the determination of how we could develop and what processes we would use. First part of the planning was to obtain a special use permit from the Department of Wildlife of the state of Louisiana. We were issued a special use permit on June 14th, and that permit authorized us to go onto our property on four-wheelers, otherwise known as ATVs. And we were also authorized that we could use chainsaws to cut our way onto the property, because the person who issued the permit actually told us that we would have to cut our way onto the property. We were able to do that with the assistance of our relatives and Mr. Eric Clark. There were times that we got to trees that were actually across the pathways of the trail number C. Those trees had to be cut, and then we were able to pass along this very rugged trail. He's got.
And now,
Okay, hold on, I'm not done. Is he putting a picture in?
Talk about what you see in the pictures.
and now you see where we were on the trail after we finally got in on these four-wheelers. There were trees that grew, looked like out of a two-story tall wall. The trees were alive and the roots were coming down inside the wall. You see some of the people in our trail, like DeValius Bright and Albert Frank and Mr. Clark, what's his name? Mr. Dennis Sells and his son. They hopped off of the four-wheelers, got chainsaws out and began, there they are, just cutting the limbs, the tree that has fallen down across the path. They would cut it off and pick it up and move it out.
I'm gonna go back to the beginning
Okay.
of the day. Let's look at these. Let me see if I can get this right. Okay, here we go. What's going on here?
Right here in the beginning, we got onto the property by going through a large gate. We stood there and looked around.
Can you see what's on the screen right now?
Very small. I can see us standing up, looking up at it. I can see you on the screen.
Hang on a second.
What was the man's name from the forestry?
Eric Clark.
Clark. Eric.
What do you see on the screen now?
Your
Nothing
picture?
now.
Nothing now, just you. The pictures are not up.
Do you see yourself?
Yeah, the three of us.
I can.
Now what do you see?
We see Albert. We've packed up the van and he's putting the last of the luggage into the van as we get ready to head out on our journey. And that's Albert Frank, who came in from Seattle, Washington.
Okay, hang on a second. Let me get back over there. Hang on. Shoot. This is tricky. All right.
When you get finished, I have Eric Clark and all of that when you get done. But it's okay. I don't want to be repetitious.
So I won't have to say anything about them. People can't say it's good about.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, so that's now. So we have vans and we are packing up, moving out.
What's on the screen now?
Yes, we are getting ready to get into the vans and we are going to follow the trucks to the trail where we will be getting in.
Tell me what's happening in this picture right here.
The three of us are getting ready to enter our van as we are leaving. And now the truck has arrived. This is Mr. Bell. He has two four-wheelers that we will be able to use on the trail.
We're all looking at the same pictures, right? You're looking at the two four-wheelers?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us what's in the pictures. That's you all talking, looking at the map. Can you tell?
Got a map up in front. Yeah.
Yeah, y'all are all looking at the map, trying to figure out where we're going to go. And he's trying to show you. I don't know that I can.
Where's he? I can't see
Mr.
that.
Dennis,
Do you see him in the picture?
well, we were talking to him out of his truck.
Oh. Well, that must be his son that we're talking to.
Both of them.
That's him in the truck. There you go.
Okay. So now that's Mr. Dennis.
Yes. Mr.
Okay. So we are looking at, Pauline has brought the maps for our property and we are looking at it and we're talking to him about where we're going to go and he's instructing us about what we are going to do. It's very. And now we've gotten onto the trail and we are unloading out of the car that we were riding in and getting ready to
What was
get.
that trip like up to that point on that county road? What was that like?
The county road is the one that you can see in the back with the high walls. and the trees growing out of them. And there is the gate and the marking for the trail. We all have on boots and hats and long sleeves, and we have put pine saw all around our boots to keep the snakes away. And now the four-wheel drive vehicles have been unloaded off of the back of the trucks, and we are looking at them. They are lining up. We have one vehicle that has a little trailer on the back of it, and that's the trail we were going through, the ATV trailer. This is where we get to a place, and the logs are across the road and on the trail. So
Actually, this is at the gate, Mom. See, we're at the gate, and remember we couldn't go through the gate. We had to go around the gate on this trail right here.
okay.
And then when we walked around that gate on the trail, first thing we had to do was cut a log.
Yeah.
That's what she's saying.
And so we had to cut a log in order to get onto the trail. And this is Mr. Dennis and Albert, and they would cut the logs, and somebody would be cutting them with the chainsaw, and other people would be picking them up and pulling them away. And this is us loading up on the back of the trail, and that's Pauline, and that's me and Mr. Dennis.
What were you thinking at Pauline right there when you were getting on that thing? You look a little shaky. Were you scared?
No, we were told to hold on pretty tight to Mr. Dennis because the trail was going to be a little bumpy and not too smooth. So he was giving us instructions so that we would not slide off of the four-wheeler. We were able to travel sometimes in various places, but sometimes we would have to get off and walk because the trail was so treacherous that we could not actually ride on the ATV. They were afraid that the ATV the trail was too narrow for the ATV, so many times they had to go on the side and go on the side, and then after we walked, we would have to get back on and continue our ride. We rode 3.5 miles through the hiking trail C until we did reach our goal, which was the Tunica Bayou
Creek.
always known as Tunica Creek.
Tell me about this scenery that we're seeing here.
Yes, we are on our way on that scene. We are on our way through some of the treacherous parts of hiking trail C.
And you could see the big tree that was cut off and turned up in there. Now that's Myrtle is in the front, on the front, ATV, and she is with the forester expert. What did you see, Myrtle?
Well, when we first got there, after we passed the gate, it was so absolutely dusty until you could not even see how to drive. And we were behind the lead car with Mr. Dennis. And we had to just sort of slow down to feel our way because you could not even see the car in front of you. And I thought that was a very treacherous, dangerous kind of mission, but yet we followed on through with Mr. Dennis, behind Mr. Dennis.
And that's Albert that was on the front HTV with Myrtle and
the park ranger
and Mr. Eric, the park ranger. And when they got to a place where they could not turn, the park ranger has been up there more often, and he knew where problems were. So he would stop, Albert would get off, and all the men would get off and go up and pull up the limbs that had been cut so that we could pass. And there's some of the branches. When we would get so close, everybody would say, duck and hold your head down. And so you had to put your head almost on your lap to not get the vines and the branches to hit you in the face, because ticks and other kind of insects were on those areas, and we had to dip so that we wouldn't get hit by them. But always the park ranger and Mr. Bell and his son. There we are right there. We've come through one of the hectic kind of sites, and we are so glad to be through and to be out of that. And that's Nicole, who was riding in the one behind us, along with DeValiers and Mr. Bell's son, Junior. They've given us a really big smile, but we must have come. That was one of the ones that we had to all hop out. That's them right up there looking down at the area, and you can see what we had to cross through. And there's a big tree that's laying in the road. It's unbelievable. It's like going in through the jungle. So we were on and off of the area. That's Mr. Bell, how he had to cut up the trees sometime. And that's how long it is.
As we were traveling in the first vehicle, Mr. Eric Clark, the guide, was able to tell us very, very many different trees and foliage and vegetation and things that were growing in the land. And so I made a note of all the different trees there. Some were the magnolia and the birch and the oak and the dark oak, and just numerous ones that I can't recall, but I did make a list of them. And he said that when the loggers would come to the land and do logs, you could see maybe 4 stories down in the earth where they would go down there and cut the trees, but they had some mechanism. They had some mechanism to pull the logs all the way up to the top so they could load them on the trucks. And it was a very interesting conversation that we had with Mr. Clark, the guide.
This is the area here where they're still having to cut trees so that we could pass. This is Mr. Dennis Bell, who is using his chainsaw to remove one of the very heavy trees that was on the pathway so that all of us could get across the path.
DeValiers, we need to pass, but Margie is on the telephone. Say hello, Aunt Margie, to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Hello,
Glad to
Margie.
see you all made it down there, and the snakes didn't bother you at all.
Okay, so we have got to stop now, DeValiers, and we will